The classroom fell silent in an instant. Smack! The sound echoed sharply between the whiteboard and the windows, louder than any raised voice. A young student staggered half a step back, his notebook slipping from his hands and hitting the floor. No one laughed, no one spoke. 30 pairs of eyes locked onto the same scene. At the front of the classroom, a teacher stood frozen, her hand still half raised, her face flushed with anger. Across from her, a quiet student stood motionless, his head slightly turned from the impact, his eyes wide but calm. He didn't cry out. He didn't protest. He just stood there. Stay until the end of this story. What was captured next changed everything. The student's name was Ethan Miller. He was 15 years old. Ethan wasn't the kind of student teachers worried about. He didn't disrupt lessons. He didn't talk back. He didn't draw attention to himself. He sat near the window, always in the same seat, always with his hood folded neatly on the back of his chair. He listened more than he spoke. Some classmates barely noticed him. Others noticed and took advantage of his silence. That morning had started like any other. The teacher, Ms. Caldwell, was already in a bad mood when she entered the room. Deadlines were piling up. Test scores were under scrutiny. The pressure showed in the sharpness of her voice. "Open your textbooks to page 94, she said briskly. Ethan followed along quietly. Halfway through the lesson, a pencil rolled off Ethan's desk and hit the floor. The sound was small, barely noticeable. But it was enough. Ms. Caldwell stopped mid-sentence. "Ethan," she said sharply, "are we interrupting class today?" Ethan looked up, startled. "No, ma'am," he said softly. It just fell. A few students shifted in their seats. Ms. Caldwell stepped closer. "You're always distracted," she said, her voice rising. "Always somewhere else." Ethan opened his mouth to respond. But the words didn't come quickly enough. Smack. The slap landed before anyone understood what was happening. The class froze. Ethan's cheek burned, his ears rang. But he didn't raise his voice. He didn't say a word. Because Ethan had learned something very early in life. Speaking up didn't always make things better, Ms. Caldwell seemed to realize what she had done the moment her hand dropped. Her breathing quickened. Her eyes darted around the room. "Class dismissed," she said abruptly. Everyone out. Chairs scraped loudly against the floor as students rushed toward the door, whispering, shocked. Ethan bent down slowly and picked up his notebook. No one noticed the phone still recording on a desk near the back of the room. What Ms. Caldwell didn't know was that one of the students had been recording the lesson for a friend who was absent. The camera had captured everything, the tension, the words, the slap. Ethan walked out of the classroom alone. He didn't go to the nurse. He didn't go to the principal's office. He went to the library. Because libraries felt safe. He sat at a corner table, staring at the cover of his notebook, replaying the moment in his mind not with anger, but with confusion. At home, Ethan didn't tell his mother what happened. Not because he didn't trust her, because he didn't want to worry her. But the truth doesn't always wait to be told. That evening, the video began circulating among students, quietly at first, then faster. By the next morning, it had reached the school administration. Ms. Caldwell was called into the principal's office before first period. She walked in confidently at first until she saw the laptop on the desk. The principal pressed play. The room filled with silence as the footage rolled. The slap was undeniable. No provocation, no threat. Just a moment of uncontrolled authority. Ms. Caldwell's face drained of color. I lost my temper," she said quickly. "He's always so unresponsive." "I didn't mean," the principal raised a hand. "Intent doesn't change what happened," he said calmly. Meanwhile, Ethan was asked to come to the office. He sat quietly across from the counselor, his hands folded. "How are you feeling?" she asked gently. Ethan thought for a moment. "I was scared," he said honestly. "But I'm okay." Those 3 words carried more weight than any accusation. The school contacted Ethan's mother. She arrived within minutes. When she saw the faint redness on her son's cheek, her composure cracked, but she didn't shout. She listened. She watched the video. She held Ethan's hand. Within hours, the district was notified. Ms. Caldwell was placed on immediate administrative leave. Not because of rumors, because of evidence. The recording didn't exaggerate. It didn't editorialize. It simply told the truth. Over the following days, Ethan returned to class. Something had changed. Students who had ignored him before nodded in the hallway. One even whispered, "I'm sorry, Ethan didn't seek attention. He didn't want fame. He just wanted to feel safe in a place meant for learning." A week later, the principal called him into the office again. "I want you to know," he said, "that what happened wasn't your fault, and it will never be ignored." Ethan nodded. That was enough. Ms. Caldwell resigned shortly after. There was no public shaming, no dramatic announcement, just accountability. Ethan stayed quiet, but his silence no longer meant invisibility. It meant strength, because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is endure long enough for the truth to surface. And sometimes, a simple recording speaks louder than any voice ever could. If you believe truth matters even when spoken softly, leave your thoughts in the comments.